All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now talk about more injury news with the New York Yankees as the reigning AL Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil, will be out for an extended period of time. He's going to be shut down for 6 weeks with a latch strain, and it's not the first time that a Yankees pitcher has had to deal with a latch strain in recent years, as Clark Schmidt dealt with the same kind of injury last year. But he's going to be shut down. He won't throw for 6 weeks, and then they'll re-examine him and go from there. So you're looking at, right now, 6 weeks. So that takes us into April. And then, who knows? I mean, May, June, he comes back. Late May, early June. That's kind of how I see it. This is a big deal. And it's a high latch strain. Aaron Boone said they're still gathering information. It's at least a 6-week no-throw. We know that for sure, but he's still got to be examined by the doctor and then get the other opinions on everything there. So now what that does is it slides Marcus Stroman back into the rotation, and he pitched the other day against the Braves, and he was not good. He was not good. He gave up back-to-back home runs to the Braves, 3 and 4 hitters, and the Braves are going to be good again. The Braves are going to be good again. Now, you could sit here and say, well, it's spring training and pitchers are working through things. I get it, but I don't know. I think Stroman coming back into the rotation, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. But maybe he pitches well up until Gil comes back, and then, we'll go from there. But looking at Luis Gil's stats, in 29 starts last season, he had a 3.5 ERA, a 1.19 WHIP, with 171 strikeouts and 77 walks and 151.2 innings pitched. I said 0.2. And 2/3 innings pitched. Don't say the decimal point. And then he pitched in the postseason, and he pitched to an ERA that was to almost 7 between the Guardians and the Dodgers. So, yeah, I mean, he got off to a great start, struggled a little bit, never really recaptured, never really captured his, early season start momentum, I guess I was trying to say. But, still put together a good season, and he was Garrett Cole's replacement because Garrett Cole was hurt. We didn't know if Garrett Cole was going to come back or when he was going to come back. But Luis Gil stepped in and did a very nice job. So now you look at the rotation. I think the rotation is going to be fine. I don't think the Yankees can afford another injury, though, to the rotation, because then you really got to start dipping into your depth, and they don't have the greatest depth behind their starting 5 or their starting 6, because, hey, at least you could plug in Stroman, but now if you get another injury, well, there's Will Warren, there's Carlos Carrasco, who pitched last night, so you don't want to see the Yankees get another injury to their rotation. I do worry about Clark Schmidt because of last year. Garrett Cole, I worry about. Over the course of a whole season. I mean, everything seems like he's good, but you never know. Carlos Rodon has had an injury history. Max Fried also. So basically, I'm worried about everybody. But it's just amazing how we're still a few weeks away from opening day. And once again, when it comes to the Yankees, they are dealing with a ton of injuries. Now, I think they'll be able to overcome it, but I do worry that we could be heading towards a season like a couple years ago, 2023, where once Aaron Judge got hurt, the season just completely fell apart. Because already they're without Giancarlo Stanton. They got some injuries to the bullpen. Now you got injuries to the rotation. And on top of that, there are so many question marks going into the year. Who's playing third base? Jason Dominguez struggling defensively out in left field, making bad plays. Who's going to be batting leadoff? How are they going to replace Giancarlo Stanton's bat? There's just so many question marks and concerns with this team that it's hard for me to not have my doubts now, because before all these injuries came up, I was sitting here saying I still think this team's going to win the division, and they still can, but it's definitely going to be more difficult with these injuries. And you wonder, when does it get to a point where it is too much to overcome? I think it's when Aaron Judge gets hurt. Knock on wood that doesn't happen. But if Aaron Judge gets hurt, then there's a problem. Now, I think the Yankees are going to really have to rely upon their pitching to really come up big over the first part of the season. I think even without Heel, they still have a good enough rotation. As long as that guys stay healthy, they still have a good enough rotation, even with Stroman at the 5, where they can deal with this. They can overcome this Luis Heel injury. And the bullpen, I think, is going to be very good. I think this is going to be one of the best bullpens they've had in years. And they're gonna figure it out. And I think they will make the necessary moves to try to improve this team once we get to the deadline. But that's me being optimistic. And the pessimistic side of me is very nervous going into the year. That it's just going to go the other way. But it is a big loss. It is a big loss. The Luis Heel loss is big. The Stanton loss is big. And who knows when we're getting Stanton back. When we'll see Giancarlo Stanton again. I don't know. But I think they got to be very careful with him. Get him ready for October, everybody is saying. But you would like to see him back before October, because you can't just plop Stanton into the postseason lineup. First, they got to get to the postseason. If they're in the postseason and Stanton hasn't played all year and you just throw him in October, well, you're going to have what you had with Matt Carpenter a few years ago, where he got hurt and then they just he missed a lot of time after he went on his miracle run. And then he comes back, they throw him in the postseason lineup, and he couldn't get a hit. You got to have these guys playing games before the postseason. So I think the Yankees will get Stanton back at some point, but it's going to be a while. And it's not like the Yankees haven't dealt with injuries before, but you've seen it both ways. They've had years where they've had a ton of injuries, and they go on and they win over 100 games. That was back in 2019. But then you have them deal with a ton of injuries in 2023, and they end up going 82-80. So, and I feel like it's going to be, I feel like if there are a ton of injuries and we see, more key guys getting hurt, you are going to see a team more so to the 82-80 team as opposed to the team that won over 100 games in 2019. That's just how I see it, because the depth is not great. Last year, even look at last year. They had to go out and get J.D. Davis. They had Jahmai Jones getting at bats. These are the Yankees, as the old school fans are going to say. They can't. How do you have Jahmai Jones and J.D. Davis? Well, look at this year. Dominic Smith could find his way. Remember Dom Smith? Used to play for the Mets. Was on the Red Sox. I think he was on, where was he recently? I think he was on the Nationals. But Dom Smith could be getting at bats. That's where the Yankees are at right now. Because some of their prospects might not necessarily be ready. George Lombard Jr., he's been looking good in the spring. I think he's only 19. Has had a couple of home runs. Spencer Jones, he's not ready yet. That's why they got to go and get a Dom Smith. That's why they're talking to a J.D. Martinez. Because some of these guys are just not ready. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when you're dealing with injuries. And both New York teams are dealing with it right now. The Mets with their pitching woes as well. Some of their pitchers are hurt. You can't just go into the year healthy. Injuries, part of every sport. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, the Yankees the season's over. Because I know there's some people that are claiming that. Also DJ LeMahieu getting hurt, tweaked the calf muscle. And people are like, oh, I can't believe this. Well, I can. Because that's what's happened. DJ LeMahieu cannot stay healthy. And they say, oh, it's not a big deal. He'll be back. I don't think so. Because even if he does come back, he's going to get hurt again. And that contract has also aged very poorly. And I'll admit, as a Yankee fan, wanted DJ LeMahieu back because he was very good his first 2 seasons. But he fell off after he got the contract. Now, I don't correlate with him getting paid and then his production just declines. I think that just happened. I don't think he was one of those guys that was like, oh, I got paid. I don't have to try anymore. No, I just think he just declined. And as Yankee fans, it was not something that a lot of people saw coming. But that's what happened. So, yeah, I mean, look, a lot of fans are not going to have sympathy for the Yankees. They're not. A lot of people will be happy about this, that the Yankees are going through it. But let them doubt the Yankees. It's fine. That's fine. And then it'll go like 2023 did. And they don't even make the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't think it's time to panic. I do think if you see like Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge both get hurt and you lose both of them on top of what's already going on, then it's time to panic. But you still got Aaron Judge, who is the best player in baseball. You got Garrett Cole, one of the best pitchers in baseball. You got a very good bullpen. I think the young players are going to step up. I like what I've seen from some of them in the spring, although Anthony Volpe did drop a pop-up last night. And also Jazz Chisholm misplayed a ball in the infield. So already I was saying to myself, oh, so here we go. We're picking up where we left off with this team last year in the World Series. So, and I think the other moves that they made are going to pay off. But there are ifs going into the year. And I think it was similar to last year where there were also a lot of ifs. But, they paid off. Some of them did, some of them didn't. I think it's the same thing here. Same thing applies here. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about the injury to Luis Gil. How big of a deal is that? I think the Yankees will be able to overcome it. But they also can't afford more injuries. So we are going to take our final break of the show now. And when we come back, we will do a season overview on the Atlanta Falcons and what they have to do to improve their team going into the 2025 season. So for one final time today, make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.